Okay, hello, welcome to WP Roundtable. Hello, world, that is. Big world of viewers. And tonight we've got another great episode. I'm Jason Crawford. That's all you need to know about me.
I'm Marc Benzakein, and I'm going second because I spoke faster. I'm with ServerPress, and that's all you need to know about me.
Well, I'm Kellen Mace. I'm a web engineer for 10up. Glad to be on tonight. It's another great guest. I'm on the east side this week, Jason. FYI.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, my name's Kyle, and I got to give you the lowdown on me. I got to tell you all about who I am and what I do, or maybe some other time, actually. Do stuff with WordPress, so there you go. It's another great week, episode 59, guys, for cruising. So happy to be here with a very special guest. His name is Marc Boynes. I'm going to let him just kind of introduce himself. Matt, you want to say hello and tell us who you are, what you do?
Sure thing. I'm Marc Boynes. I'm a partner at Alley Interactive. We are a multi-platform development agency. We mainly specialize in news media, nonprofit, education, and we build some really large and complex websites, mostly with WordPress.
Mostly with WordPress. So we've had a couple Alley Interactive guests in the past and had really good discussions with them. You have been recommended by a couple of people to be a guest on our show, and one of those people was me, because I've always wanted to have you on the show. So it's a very exciting day for us. So before we get into asking questions, because we've got a ton of questions, we even have some listener questions today for our special guest. A lot of them, so we're going to be burning through those. But first, we got to cover our quick picks of the week, everybody. And one of these days, one of us needs to make a quick, fun little sound bite for our little. Just make a note of that, you guys. Quick picks. All right, my quick pick of the week. I wanted to share for anybody who uses Easy Digital Downloads. I use it a lot. Great plugin. They've got this awesome GitHub repo of a library of snippets, which I love, and I'm referring to it all the time now. So I thought I'd just share it. GitHub.com/EasyDigitalDownloads/library. Great repository with tons of just useful snippets, or just basically everything you could think of that you would ever want to do with EDD, or in an EDD theme, or in an extension that you're working on. So that's my quick pick of the week.
Who did that?
What do you think?
No idea what you're talking about. So my quick pick of the week is the GeoCities Iser. If you haven't seen this, I'm going to actually do a quick screen share on it. If I can remember how to do that. And it claims to type any URL in the box below and click submit to see how it looks as a GeoCities page. And I think the description is somewhere that I saw was make any site. Yeah, it's up here somewhere. Make any site look like it was built by a 13-year-old boy in the 90s, and I'm pretty sure that's what it does. So, anyways, it's at www.wonder-tonic.com. Here's the Yahoo homepage. So yeah, there's my fun pick of the week.
Priceless.
Yeah, that's a game changer, Jason, right now. I wish I would have known about that when I started my business years ago.
I'm still waiting for the front page decizer.
Yeah.
That's the one I want.
I'm going to use this, and if I cannot tell the difference between the original website and what this brings up, I know it's probably a little outdated.
Thanks, Jason.
The real question would be how your analytics look after you go with the GeoCities appearance.
I think you'd get a lot of traffic as long as everybody found out about it, as long as, somebody shared it.
Right.
That reminds me of Kyle. You shared something on April Fool's Day some WordPress development agency did like a retro,
Oh yeah.
old school video game theme or something like that.
Oh
It was
yeah.
all like
Oh great. But it's a real. It wasn't even
music
go.
playing.
Yeah, it's a real theme that's out there. It's awesome.
Right.
You can find it somewhere. It was
It is awesome.
hilarious. I want so bad to just use it for something, but I can't think of what.
Does it work well with Betterify?
Yeah. It works perfectly with a Betterify.
Yes. All right, I'll dive in next. My pick of the week is a WordPress VIP article. This is from March 25th, so it's a little over 2 months old. But for any developers out there, really good stuff on preventing cross-site scripting attacks. I was turned on to this by one of the engineering managers at 10up, and he was saying that they keep, for VIP sites in particular, they keep kind of changing the rules for what they do and do not want you to do for preventing cross-site scripting in JavaScript. But this is kind of the latest and greatest, recommendations for preventing that. So, so long URL, so I'll just state the title. I'm sure anybody can Google it and find it. It's just coding best practices : preventing XSS in JavaScript by Nick Doherty. I think that's how you say that. So check it out if you're a developer and want the latest and greatest.
Thanks, Kellen.
Yeah.
All right. Mine has nothing to do with anything other than I'm in a really bad mood today because last night we had a break-in in our garage, and so I was fortunate enough, or planned well enough, to have surveillance cameras in my garage and all around our house. And I use a piece of software called Blue Iris software, and I was able to capture the perp on video. And what was really good about it was I got not only his face, but when the police officer came out to take the police report, he was able to see exactly where the fingerprints would be, so he dusted for prints. A lot of times police will not dust for prints on petty thefts because they do not know where to dust. So he was able to dust for prints. And Blue Iris software is really cool because you can run like 64 cameras. You can check it out remotely on your phone. You can do all kinds of cool things with it. And I actually have a link to Blue Iris software, I think, in the show notes that Jason's going to get up tonight. I also have a link to the video because I want to publicly shame this guy who broke into my garage. So there'll be a link if you guys want to watch the video of the guy breaking into our garage. Anyway, that's the fun for the evening.
That's so great.
Once you figure out who it is, you should have him on the show.
I would do that. I would so do that, and I would just yeah. Then we'd get to ask him the questions that we really wanted to ask, what's the question that we never ask? Why do you suck so bad, or something like that? Boy, I'd ask him that.
Never asked that.
Why are you so disappointing?
Yeah, why are you so disappointing? That would be the first question I would ask. So
hopefully it didn't do too much damage.
Yeah. No, I mean they didn't. They got away with some money. He was only looking for money, clearly, but but I'm still a little bit peeved about it. So
yeah, that ain't right.
No.
Matt, do you have a quick pick for us?
Yeah, I do. I thought about it, and released this week was a plugin from the really cool team at Fusion called Image Shortcake. They've been running with a plugin called Shortcake, which provides a UI for arbitrary shortcodes, and the Image Shortcake is an image add-on for that. So check it out. If you search for Image Shortcake, you'll probably find images of shortcakes. But then somewhere in the search results, under images of shortcakes, once you're good and hungry, you will find that plugin.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm going to do my best to get all these links that we're talking about on the Google Plus event tonight, and eventually one of us will publish this on our site with the notes and links and stuff. But yeah, that looks like a really sweet plugin, and the guys working on Shortcake are really, really crushing it, making some cool stuff too. So thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
All right, Matt. So enough of our quick picks. everybody here tuning into this show, the many, many people watching us right now are just waiting for us to get through all of that nonsense so we can learn more about Matt Boynes. That's why we're all here. So we've got a ton of questions for you. I was hoping maybe you could kind of start by getting us up to speed a little bit. Help us understand what you were doing maybe when you were younger, before you got your career really on track, and what is it you kind of set out? You know, me going out into the world, I'm Matt Boynes, and I want to go out and do this. And how did you end up eventually into the world that you're in?
I don't think I ever really set out to do much of anything. So I went to college to study computer science. I figured this would be a good career path. And I did not really like studying computer science. I've always enjoyed doing computer science, but not studying it. So I switched majors, and I instead went to study neuroscience. And then I worked in psychiatry for a little bit, doing psychiatric research. Mostly research on drugs, ecstasy, steroids, stuff like that, but a few other things as well. And then kind of found my way back into doing website development. So, you know, typical career path for a WordPress developer.
I'm so curious how, like, your study of neuroscience and all those other things has impacted your current, your career, day-to-day life.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious too, but I don't know what it would be like without that, so I don't really know. But I remember probably like maybe 7 years ago, I went to a day course on A/B testing, and the guys running the session were asking like questions about like, what would you test on this page, and then they would say, well, here's what we tested and here's what we found. And with absolutely everything that they talked about, I was like, well, obviously this isn't going to work. And they're like, well, why was that obvious? I'm like, well, because you have a green button on a red page, and these are really discordant colors, and you're going to you're going to agitate people with this, even though maybe green buttons statistically generate more clicks or whatever. That's not going to work in this instant. And that instance actually was really funny. Was for a Valentine's Day thing, and so they had like these big pictures of red roses, and I think in some Asian cultures having red and green together actually represents infidelity. So it's a horrible thing for a Valentine's Day site to advertise. I mean, I guess unless your target audience is not Asian.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating. So you said, kind of quickly you eventually, followed that also typical path and found yourself into the world of web development eventually. So what was that like when you started doing this professionally? You start freelancing just like most of the rest of us have done, and then eventually got into the agency world?
No, I dove right into the agency world. So I mean, I started building websites when I was maybe 14 or 15. One of those GeoCities pages is going to be mine, for sure. And so I kind of like continued to dabble with it for forever, never making a buck off of it, just like doing things for myself. And so I had some experience when I went to start applying for jobs in agencies, and so I found myself in a small company in Vermont, and making websites for small businesses, some education, nonprofits, things like that. So I kind of dove right into the agency world.
Awesome. So you're now at Alley Interactive, WordPress VIP partner, agency with a lot of great teams. Like I said, we've talked to a few of your colleagues before on the show. So was that like, how long have you been with Alley, and how did you end up starting to work there?
I've been with Alley for 2.5 years, thereabouts. So I was with my last company for either 6 or 7 years, I forget which. And so I was at a wedding one weekend. It was like a weekend-long event, and one of my good friends was there, and he was working on a WordPress site, and I love WordPress. Been working with it for years at that point, and so I was like, dude, why are you working? We're here. He's like, I just want to. I'm like, this is really fun what I'm doing, and he's like, but I'm struggling with a couple of problems, and I helped him out with these problems, and he's like, you should come work for us. And I said, yeah, that'd be fun getting to work with you because he's one of my good friends. He's like, no, really, you should come work with us. And it was either like that week or the next. I took the train down to New York to meet with the partners of the company, and on my train ride home, they sent me an offer, and that was that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So now a couple of years later, you're a partner yourself at the company. And what are your roles and responsibilities at Alley now, and also what were they when you started? How have they changed?
Yeah, so I'm a partner now. We're set up like a law firm where everybody that works with the company can become a partner. They can work their way to that and earn that, and earn stake in the company. Our industry is extremely competitive for employees. There are so many development agencies, and if we wanted to, developers could hop from job to job every 6 months and try something new out. So you need some incentive to get people to want to stay at a company, and that's one of the big incentives at Alley, is that if this is a company that you want to work at and stay at, then it can be yours. You can have ownership in it, and you can be one of the partners. So anyway, I was hired in as like a senior level developer, and just sort of worked my way through the ranks. So my role has definitely changed since I got there 2.5 years ago, and it's all been for the better, I hope. I think.
Hey, Matt. Really quickly, the guys all wanted to know what your favorite thing for breakfast is, and then after that, I'd like to know what your favorite part of the job is on your day-to-day.
Breakfast is. I'm not good at eating breakfast. I just had a baby, or my wife did. I was there cheering her on. So before we had a baby, thanks. Before we had a baby, I would basically roll out of bed, flip open my laptop, and just start writing code. I would dive right into it, and then usually at like 4 o'clock, I'd think, oh man, I should really have some breakfast now. And so when I did, it would always be a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios, kind of my favorite. And then what was the other question? What do I do?
That's all that matters, really, is the Honey Nut Cheerios. So, no, what in your day to day, what would you say your favorite part of the job is?
Well, that was probably the last question because there's a very long list. I don't have one favorite part of the job. I love my job. I work with some amazing people. Every single person that I work with is in some way my superior, and so I learn from them every single day. And I just love to learn. I love to learn new tricks every day. I just work with some amazing people. We work on some really cool projects. We solve very difficult problems. I just love that. I love a challenge. I love something that's going to make me scratch my head. I wouldn't be able to do the same thing day in and day out, and that's not at all what we do. So that's probably the short list of the favorite parts of my job.
Awesome. So you do get to work on some cool projects for sure. Over at Alley, you guys have some pretty awesome things coming your way, and you've had. Or you told me a little bit about some of the cool things you've been involved with and some of the things you like to work on. I was wondering if you could talk to us about some of the lessons that you've learned developing for high-traffic websites. And feel free to go deeper because I'm really curious.
Sure. tough. Probably the most valuable thing that I've learned about high traffic websites is that there's no one way to solve a problem, and the best answer for the problem on one website may not be the best answer for the same problem on another. So for really large websites and high traffic websites, there's no cookie cutter approach. Everything to a degree needs to be custom. Of course, there's some wiggle room in there, and there are some really great tools out there that you can use time and again. But oftentimes, you'll find that you end up customizing them to fit the needs of that project.
Awesome. So, no, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was just going to add, a couple weeks ago we had Dan Bile on, and he kind of described the workflow of how Alley Interactive does their process on a project, and I'd kind of like to get your perspective on it, only because it seemed like it was atypical for your for most web development agencies that I've come in contact with.
Yeah, sure. You'll have to refresh my memory. So
I wish, because I'd love to refresh your memory. It didn't sound like it was like a standard kind of like workflow where you have like a project manager and kind of someone who goes out and puts out the quote, and then it kind of goes through this workflow. It sounded a little bit more, I'm trying to think of a word, not necessarily organically driven, but it seemed like everybody is more working at like an equal level rather than like in a hierarchy and it sounded really interesting to me, but I'm not sure that I totally grasped the whole process, because it does seem quite a bit different, like I said, than how most agencies that I've seen run their processes.
Yeah, I remember the discussion now. So I mean, some of what you described that is a typical workflow still happens here at Alley. We go through a normal sales process, although the sales are all run by partners, mainly one of my partners, Austin Smith, who is one of the best developers I've had the pleasure of knowing. So we don't have sales people per se. We have developers who do sales, and then we go through, very normal discovery phases and everything. The projects themselves kind of run in a somewhat typical fashion, but I think that what Dan was describing that it is probably atypical is that we don't have like groups of people that work together on every project. We have front-end developers, we have back-end developers, we have project managers, we have designers, and a front-end developer may be working on 2 projects or 3 projects with 2 or 3 different back-end developers, or maybe one of the projects has 3 back-end developers or whatever. So each project gets a custom a custom staffing for it, where it gets the resources that it needs to succeed. And a lot of companies work in like these teams or groups that are always together, that are always working together. I think I was really driven by 37 Signals. They wrote a lot about that like small team workflow a number of years ago, and I think it really resonated with a lot of companies, a lot of agencies, and so everyone started doing that. But that's not really our style. We're more of a Lego company where this block goes here and that block goes there, and that sort of thing. But yeah, each project still has a project manager who really runs the show. Each project will have a partner on it who makes sure that that everything is going as it should. Has a lead developer, or depending on the size of the project, sometimes even more than one lead developer, and then it has back-end and front-end developers.
Thanks for clarifying that. I was missing a piece there, but now it all makes much more sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Matt, I'm curious to know how the decision is made for platform. You know, when clients come to you, just because on the Alley front page you have a few technologies listed, right? Drupal, WordPress, Django. I'm wondering, you know, do you have folks who sit on these calls and know, those technologies well enough to know right off the bat which one will be the most likely fit for this client's needs, or is it kind of some trial and error? You know, you figure out, maybe not trial and error is the best word, but just digging into it a little more, right, what the client's needs will be until you land on what the best solution will be. And also, second part to that question, do you have folks who in-house who specialize in one of those, or how many of them do like both, you know, WordPress and Drupal, for example, some crossover?
Absolutely. Going in reverse, we have several people who do WordPress and Drupal. We have people who do WordPress and Django. We have people who do who don't do WordPress at all, who focus entirely in front-end technologies like Backbone and Angular. And how a decision is made on what platform to put a site on. These days, pretty much all sites are powered by WordPress in one form or another that we're outputting. I mean, we're kind of in, there's like a weird in-between stage with Drupal right now where Drupal 8 is forthcoming, so nobody wants to build a site on Drupal 7, but Drupal 8 is not at a stable enough point that websites should be built on it. So new websites aren't, at least in the clients that we're working with, nobody really wants to work in Drupal. So pretty much all sites that we're working with are WordPress right now. The ones that aren't are entirely front-end technologies, doing like Angular builds and things like that. But come to think of it, I don't think that we have anything that doesn't include WordPress at all, because we're doing one that will kind of be powered by WordPress, but will be I don't think we've decided on the front-end technology for it yet, but it'll be mostly a JavaScript project.
That's cool. So making use of the JSON REST API, I assume, for that.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Cool. Well, very cool. Next, I was curious to know about kind of your, elevator pitch for Alley Interactive to others, especially if they're maybe looking to go to WordPress VIP and inquire about who they should partner with, or still shopping around, that kind of thing. In your mind, like, what does Alley specialize in, or what's set you apart from some of the other agencies that are out there?
Great question. So my elevator pitch for Alley is kind of what I introed with, that we do news media, education, nonprofit. Those are our primary sectors, and we also focus in very large and high traffic websites. So those are some of the best exclusionary criteria for a project being a perfect fit for us. Because honestly, there aren't there are a ton of projects out there that do fit that criteria, but there are even more that don't. But sites that aren't within our strike zone there, we may not be the best fit for, and we are always very honest with sales leads about that. So I don't know enough about all of the other VIP partners to say where we would be better than one or another at one project or another. Either that, or I'm too political to say. But I like to think that what we specialize in is, I really don't think anyone can build a high-performing, massive website quite like we can, or do an extremely bizarre migration to WordPress better than we can.
Nice. Good answer. So let's go into that conversation about high traffic site. Got a high traffic site here, Matt. I want to talk to you about my project. I've heard some things about scalability on WordPress, and tell me, like, compared to all the options that I could consider for my project, why WordPress? How does WordPress handle its scale? What are the advantages and disadvantages of choosing it for a very high performing website?
Yeah, lots of people want to know that. WordPress out of the box has it scales extremely well. It doesn't really have too many bottlenecks in it. The most powerful thing about WordPress is its flexibility, that any core part of it can be changed, can be optimized, can be manipulated. Its action and filter system really has no rival, I think. And so even the bottlenecks that WordPress may have out of the box can very easily be rectified. I was working on a site recently which had like 3 million objects in the post table, and it had a taxonomy where some of the terms had like hundreds of thousands of posts in a term, and when you save a post, the WordPress will update the post count, and the query it uses for that is really non-performant. I mean, it would be hard to improve without doing a good deal of refactoring, but it really churns, and it can take like 45 seconds to save a post when you have that situation. So I took a look at it, and I had the problem solved in probably about like 10 minutes, just by disabling the filter that runs that post count and creating an asynchronous process to do that using WP cron. So, I mean, the process itself is still really sluggish. It's just that the editors don't have to wait for it. So when the post is saved, or ultimately it creates an asynchronous request to update the term count, and then so the author, the editor, doesn't have to wait for that to finish for the post to save, and then the term count updates behind the scenes, and everyone's happy. So that's a great example where WordPress has part of its architecture that does not scale, but it's really easy to work around it. So a very long answer to this question, and the gist of it is WordPress is flexible, and so there kind of really are no limits. It's just whatever's in your imagination. It's a really great starting point, and allows you the same flexibility as building something completely custom without having to go through and rebuild a lot of the same stuff that you would build on every project, like an admin interface.
Cool. Matt, next we wanted to hear real briefly about Elastic Press. So to start us off on that, can you just tell folks what Elastic Press is and what type of site, type of client project would benefit from using that?
Well, you're asking about a tenant plugin. I don't think that's what you meant to ask me about. I think you probably meant to ask me about Elasticsearch.
I'm sorry, Elasticsearch. That was my part two of my question, is asking you how Elastic Press varies from your implementation. But you're right. I'm jumping ahead of myself. My mistake.
Yeah. So Elasticsearch. God, you asked for a quick answer. I don't know if I have one of those. Elasticsearch is it's a search application, and it's think of it as like you have like Microsoft Word and you have Microsoft Excel. Word is great for writing documents, but if you want to create a table in it, it's a real pain. Excel is great at tables, but you're not very well going to create a document in it. So you want to have both tools. I'm sorry to use a Microsoft example. I couldn't really resist. But it's it's like having a hammer and it's like having a screwdriver. That's that would be my answer that wouldn't throw an elbow into talking about Microsoft. But there are two different. So Elasticsearch is a tool. It's a really powerful tool for doing searches. It handles large amounts of data at lightning speed, and it allows you to do some really interesting things with that data. Another tool that deals with data is MySQL, which is what WordPress uses as its database engine. That is another great tool at doing what it does, which is storal and retrieval of data. So the way that at Ali we use Elasticsearch, which is jumping ahead a little bit, is to use these tools together to leverage their strengths and remove their individual weaknesses to make really powerful, really fast websites.
Cool. Now on to part two of my question, then after my slip of the tongue there. So the difference between an Ali Interactive implementation of Elasticsearch and then ElasticPress, which is a 10-up offering on their GitHub page as well. I've been told that between the two of them, one is more like geared toward developers, as something that they can tie into, and the other is, I guess I wouldn't say for non-developers because you need some expertise, but just for less technically savvy developers, I guess.
So which is which?
I don't know. I'm trying to recall. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know too much about ElasticPress, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
It is a derivative work of SearchPress, and so I've never used it. I mean, I have a solution that I baked myself that allows me to do absolutely everything I would ever want to do. So yeah, I haven't really messed around with other implementations. I can tell you a lot about SearchPress, which is a really simple and flexible plugin. It's got a lot of flexibility baked into it, with actions and filters to allow developers to customize how their site interacts with Elasticsearch in any way they want. So they can, the way that Elasticsearch works from a 10,000-foot view is that data is broken down and it's indexed. And then, so how you index that data, if you say, so like with MySQL, you can have a field that's a string field, and you can cast that field as a date or as an integer, and then you can do manipulations with the end result, and that computation is all done by MySQL. Elasticsearch, I mean, it can kind of do that sort of thing, but it's not meant to. It's meant to have data in one form right off the bat, and then always use the data in that form. So this is a date field. It's always going to be a date field. Don't try to do, addition on it. So how your data is indexed is extremely important, and so that's one, for instance, where there's a filter. This information is filterable, and so you can change how SearchPress indexes your data however you want. And then you can use that custom index to do wild and crazy things. A really good example of doing that would be, let's say that you had geographic information in your post-meta table. So that post-meta information in SearchPress is just stored as a string. I think I may have stored it as a variety of data based on what it looks like, but let's just pretend it's a string. But you know that individual meta keys represent latitudes or longitudes. Well, you can manipulate your mapping to add a location field, turn those meta values into a lat long, and then you can run geo searches on that data. And yeah, there are some base classes that you can work with. So you can create a new Elasticsearch query and then query the database against any, query the Elasticsearch index against any arbitrary information like that geodata. But then it also has like a basic integration out of the box where it replaces core search so that you get a better search experience just by activating the plugin and indexing your data.
Wow, that's pretty powerful, man. So awesome. I love kind of getting into some developer topics and kind of following on that. I always love hearing like what kind of fun topics people enjoy talking about, and get all kinds of things people love to chat about. I don't know, their hobbies or their families or things like that. But Matt Boynes likes to talk about rewrites. Rewrites. So what's so cool about rewrites? Tell me that.
I don't know. I love the way that WordPress handles URL structures with its rewrite rules. Probably because I'm an absolute regular expression nut. I love working with regular expressions, and so the fact that it's regex based makes me super happy. But it's a really I'm starting to see a pattern in a lot of my answers. It's a really powerful and flexible solution to the problem, and that's what I really like is powerful, flexible solutions, because you're bound to encounter 100 different varieties of any given problem if you work as a developer, and that's why I said before that there's never going to be just one perfect magical solution to everything. And that is why WordPress is as ubiquitous as it is right now, because it doesn't really try to be a magical solution. It tries to be a flexible solution. And rewrites have no shortage of that. They are super flexible and allow you to do some really cool things. And they scale really well. If you were to, instead of having rewrite rules, which are regular expression matches against URL, if you were to instead try to take, when a request comes into a website, and you were to just take that URL and say to the database, give me the page that matches this exact URL, that's going to work up until a point, but then after that point, it's going to be really sluggish. That solution doesn't scale. So using a rewrite matching system like WordPress does is a much more scalable solution.
Gotcha. So I would imagine, not having experienced like quite a lot of rewrites, just on a smaller scale, that you're encountering these a lot on some of those like migration projects that you talked about as being something that you do a lot of. You're having conversations probably in that discovery phase that you could maybe talk us through, where we're going to need to kind of employ some rewrite stuff, and this is how it's going to go down. How does that look?
Yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of times in that discovery phase, well, just always one of the first questions that I ask is, so in this crazy CMS that you've been using for the past 5 years, you have these URLs for all of your articles. Are these URLs going to change, or do you need them to be the same? And if the answer is we need them to be the same, then rewrites become a huge part of the discussion and about the decision making for the project, because some random CMS's arbitrary URL structure, having to match WordPress to handle that can be quite challenging. It can be a good deal of work. Especially if the content management system uses that non-scalable solution that I outlined, which would be storing a full URL in the database, and when a request comes in, finding the article that matches this exact URL. When you have that sort of a situation, then using rewrite rules can be really difficult.
Awesome. Thanks for that description. So we've got some listener questions, actually. There's some character hitting me up named Tom, and he has a question for Matt. He wants to know, what is the one thing in WordPress you want to change more than anything? We should preface this by saying that, Matt, you have been reasonably involved in WordPress development for a long time and even contributed to core on a number of occasions. That's correct. So you know WordPress pretty well. What's one thing that you just wish you could change?
I wish that, so WordPress, as probably most of your listeners know, have themes and plugins. I wish that WordPress had a third category of things, which would be libraries, which would be like shared code that plugins can use. They'd be like dependencies. So this plugin uses OAuth 2, and so there would be like one OAuth 2 library instead of 8 different plugins including the exact same code. So that's probably the one thing that I would change about WordPress.
I've never heard anybody kind of say something like that, but I mean, other than the dependencies discussion is a very common one, but I usually hear it more about maybe other plugins being a dependency, but the concept of libraries being dependencies that one could reference the same way that one does those included in core, like jQuery and many, many others. That would be extremely powerful. What a great idea.
Yeah, copyright 2015, Matt Boynes.
Yeah, is there a ticket open for that in track?
I don't know. That one's floated in my head for a while, and I like always forget to do something about it. But then somebody will ask me a question like that, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that one thing that I keep thinking of and never do anything about.
Sorry, guys.
Gabe, I noticed you were gone.
I noticed.
Oh, gee. We have another listener question. Does anybody else want to ask that? I can ask that. We've got a listener named Tom who wants to know, Matt, in 10 years, when people look back, what will be the one thing you have done or will do that people will remember you for?
It won't be a good thing, I promise that. What will, I don't know, in 10 years? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm pretty sure that it would start with this one time at WordCamp.
That's awesome. Good choice, good choice. And I'm getting another listener question right now. This is from Peter, and he wants to know if you have any advice on choosing Drupal or WordPress. Peter, I know, works with both at a company and wants to know, in your opinion, what use cases make great sense for choosing Drupal.
Sure. So Drupal has a couple of things to it that WordPress, for better or worse, doesn't have. One of them is an active. It is a problem that's actively being worked on, and others don't. But Drupal has, I would say, more of an application-type framework, more of an API for that. Like it has a Fields API where you can create complex forms, especially within the administration panel, and it has its views, so you can create arbitrary queries of your data and then reference them on the front end of the site. So there's the Core Fields project, which is in WordPress, which is working on adding a Fields API to Core. There's nothing quite like views in WordPress, although I've created something that I'll probably open source when I have a few minutes of time. also, both of these problems and others have been solved in WordPress through plugins. So I mean, they're very comparable platforms in a lot of ways. I think that probably one of the reversing the question and talking about why choose WordPress over Drupal, one of the great things about WordPress is that it spends a lot of effort on backwards compatibility. I guess this is both a strength and a weakness. The strength is that you can always update your site in WordPress to the next version and feel confident that nothing is going to break. It's not a 100% guarantee, but it's quite likely that nothing is going to break. Whereas with Drupal, with each major version, everything breaks. You have to spend a lot of time and effort upgrading. Now, to flip that coin over and spin that as a plus for Drupal, WordPress has a very hard time changing old things, and sometimes changing the course of that ship is quite a task, and it can take years. The taxonomy roadmap that we're in the midst of is a great example of that. Core wanted to make some major changes to taxonomies and terms, and if Core made those changes overnight, there would be so many broken websites, broken plugins. People would not update WordPress. It would be a huge problem. And so it's a big ship that the core team has to steer. Whereas with Drupal, they just say right out of the gate, nope, major changes are not backwards compatible, and so we're going to, with each version, get rid of the stuff that we don't like and build out stuff that we think we're going to like, and we're not going to worry about old versions.
That's amazing. Yeah, yeah.
I properly danced around that one.
Yeah, good job. Yeah. It's a difficult question, I think, to get very direct with, I think. And, I mean, we figured that maybe you would have some good insight on it. So thank you for that.
No problem.
We're getting here towards the end. That hour kind of flew right by. So we've got kind of just a few kind of wrap-up questions I'm going to hit you with, if that's okay. All right. What kind of things do you do for fun, Matt?
I write code for WordPress. What do you think I do for fun?
Yeah.
I like to walk a lot. Take my dog and my new baby for a walk every morning, and usually in the afternoon too. I love to hike and do a variety of outdoor sports, canoe, kayak, whatever. I like to be outside, have fun.
Yeah, nice. Love that. So, what does the future look like for Matt Boynes, and what sort of things are you really optimistically trying to resolve to do more of, or move in this direction, or incorporate more into your life, short term, long term?
Professionally or personally?
Well, you can take that either way you want. We'll be happy.
Yeah, I love my trajectory right now in both arenas. So I want to keep everything moving in the same direction and only have to deviate course if there's a major emergency.
All right. Do you have recommendations for other guests that we should consider inviting on the show in the future?
Yeah, sure. I probably should have gone through your guest list to make sure I didn't cover any repeats, but I don't think I've seen you guys have any people that I'm going to mention. First of all, I would vouch for every single one of my coworkers. Like I said before, I work with some amazing people who are just brilliant and just unbelievably awesome at what they do. So I would vouch for every single one of them. You could hit up our team page and boom, there's my next guest, and it'll be great. Outside of Alley Interactive, I would say you should have on Daniel Bach-Huber. He's a great developer, very powerful force in the WordPress community. He's done some really amazing things. Zach Tolman, Jeremy Felt. Who else? I don't know. I mean, there are so many really cool people in this community. It's hard to pull some names out, but there are a few people that I've had some really engaging discussions with about WordPress, and who are really smart and really good at everything they do. So any of them or anyone at Alley, you'll have a good time.
Thanks, Matt. Those are good suggestions, and they're all on my radar, and all should expect to hear from me. So we want to know, I know you've got a little one who just entered the home recently, but is there any event or anything special this year on your calendar that people might bump into you in person at?
I don't know. I'll probably try to get to a WordCamp or two toward the end of the year. I was thinking about submitting a talk for WordCamp New York, although I don't know what that talk would be. So multi-step process, and none of them are done yet. I don't know what. Let's see. I had a great time at WordCamp Portland. I guess it was like a year and a half ago. If WordCamp Portland is having another one this year, I'd probably try to get to that. WordCamp USA, I'll probably try to make my way to. Yeah, it'll all depend on if the baby stops screaming or not.
Are you getting any sleep? Are you getting any sleep at all these days?
A little bit, yeah. My wife and I have found a pretty efficient approach to this problem, which is the tag team. It does mean that the three of us don't sleep in the same room, but I take a shift, she takes a shift. We both get some sleep. Nobody gets no sleep. Kind of working. I've never
believe me, kind of working is all you can hope for.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm pretty happy with the solution overall thus far. It's not sustainable. We'll have to figure something out later. But
well, about that time, that's when the baby starts sleeping through the night.
Yeah, I'm counting. Just waiting for that day. That would be.
How old is your baby?
6 weeks old. Yeah. Or one really long day, depending on who you ask.
Right.
Well, Matt, it's been a real treat. I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your evening to come join us and answer all these questions. We will send out a link to the event and everything once we're done and share with everybody. And on behalf of all of our many, many viewers, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Appreciate it.
Even if I didn't understand a word of it.
Sorry about that, Jason.
That's all right. Kyle likes to bring these developer people on that talk about stuff beyond like CSS, and it just confuses me. But I think I'm learning a little bit here.
Well, before I go,
your English is pretty rusty. That's why.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks.
Bye, everyone.
All right.